15 black R&B female singers who were the worst sex addicts. They stepped onto the stage draped in glittering gowns, their lips crimson as desire, their voices flowing straight from the heart like rivers of velvet fire. The crowd saw perfection, but behind that dazzling facade lived women the world never truly understood. One was humiliated in public, her lover denouncing her the moment she confessed her attraction to men and women alike. Another wept quietly in her dressing room, having fallen for someone new the night before, not out of passion, but loneliness. They weren't sinners. They were simply honest. Yet that very honesty cast them out, pushing them to the dark edges of music history. What you're about to witness isn't just about sex. It's about the war between instinct and judgment, love and rejection. So stay until the end and ask yourself, is desire a sin, or just the most human truth of all? Donna Summer. Donna Summer, the woman who made the world moan. She didn't just sing about love. She embodied it. Every breath, every sigh, every pulse in her voice was a rhythm of raw, unapologetic desire. When Love to Love You Baby dropped, America froze. 17 minutes of gasps, whispers, and moans. Not a song, but a seduction. Radios blushed, preachers preached, and parents yanked their children away from the speakers. But Donna? She had just opened Pandora's box. She later confessed that when she recorded the track, the lights in the studio were turned off. Only a dim red glow remained. The music slid across the room like a lover's hand, and producer Giorgio Moroder whispered, "Pretend you're in love with a man the world won't let you have." What followed was not acting. It was instinct. It was Donna Summer. The world labeled her obscene, a pornographic singer. Several states banned her songs from the airwaves. But Donna didn't flinch. Instead, she became even more dangerous. Her voice grew softer, more suggestive. Her lyrics became confessions between two souls tangled in the dark. Once, while touring Italy, Donna disappeared after a show with a young fashion designer. By morning, she returned wearing a man's shirt, lipstick smeared, her eyes sparkling with something forbidden. When a bandmate asked how her night went, Donna only smiled and said, "Last night, I found a new melody." Whispers followed her everywhere about a secret affair with a female photographer who shadowed her on tour. They shared rooms, laughter, and something the tabloids could never quite name. When pressed, Donna simply said, "We shared inspiration." And sometimes, inspiration comes from places you can't say out loud. In her final diary entry, she wrote, "If I could live again, I would love the same way." Women can moan too, and no one has the right to judge. Donna Summer wasn't just the queen of disco. She was the sound of liberation. A woman who turned pleasure into poetry, who dared to make the world listen, even when it blushed. And long after the lights fade, her moans will echo, eternal, untamed, unforgettable. Tina Turner. Tina Turner, the fire that made lovers run. They called her the thunder goddess of the stage, a woman whose voice could shake the heavens and whose legs were made for war. But behind the glitter and the spotlight, Tina was more than a performer. She was a storm, wild, untamable, and unapologetically alive. From the moment fame found her, Tina Turner burned brighter than anyone else. Her music wasn't just heard, it was felt. She danced like the world was ending and sang like she was daring God to strike her down. But her passion came with a warning label. The men who entered her orbit often left scorched, not because of betrayal or games, but because few could handle the heat of being loved by a woman like her. A former tour manager once revealed that after a Las Vegas show in 1978, Tina vanished for 2 days with a young dancer from a troupe. When he finally returned, pale and silent, he simply muttered, "I love her, but I'm not strong enough to be loved back." In the 1980s, whispers told of a brief affair with a famous white movie star. 3 weeks in a New York apartment that ended with him slipping away in the middle of the night. He left only a note, "You're beautiful, but you burn everything." Even television couldn't contain her. Producers warned she was too sexual for family audiences. One show even cut her act after she appeared in a glittering dress with a thigh-high slit. Tina didn't flinch. She told a reporter, "I am Tina Turner. I will never apologize for being a woman. Women have the right to be loved with all their bodies." Years later, in her quiet home in Switzerland, she looked back without regret. "Some people ran from my fire," she once told a journalist. "But loving a fire, that's still their choice." Tina Turner didn't just set the stage ablaze. She made the world bow to the truth that some women are born to burn bright. Fearless, misunderstood, unafraid of loneliness, terrified only of living a life that wasn't true. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston, the angel of forbidden desires. Whitney Houston, the voice of heaven, the golden daughter of America. To the world, she was perfection, pure, graceful, untouchable. But behind that polished image was a woman torn between longing and restraint. Her smile hid silent storms. Her voice carried the echoes of desires she could never name aloud. Whitney didn't just love, she surrendered. She loved recklessly, with her soul, her flaws, and her fire. Those closest to her knew that love, for Whitney, had no boundaries. Behind closed doors, her heart belonged to Robin Crawford, her confidant, assistant, and the woman many believed to be her true soulmate. In the 1980s, they shared a private apartment in Atlanta, a hidden world of soft jazz, red wine, and whispers that lasted until dawn. In her memoir, Robin recalled a night when Whitney whispered, "I can love men, but only you make me feel safe." A veteran sound engineer at Arista once remembered the day she recorded "Saving All My Love for You." She walked into the studio with tired eyes, as if she hadn't slept in days. When she sang, "For tonight is the night that I'm feeling all right," her voice trembled with something raw and real. "That wasn't a performance," he said later. "That was a confession." But Whitney's heart was never bound by one story. She also fell for a young dancer, nearly 15 years her junior. They were once caught in the Ritz-Carlton lobby, holding each other like two teenagers hiding from the world. His eyes looked lost, like he'd just been through a storm, said a hotel staffer. And Whitney, she was glowing but exhausted, like love was her sweetest kind of pain. Hollywood, however, has never been kind to women who love outside its rules. Rumors of her affairs with both men and women branded her as uncontrollable. Producers once demanded she remove a sensual scene from a music video. "Too real," they said. Whitney only smiled and murmured, "They want me to be pure. But if I'm an angel, why do I long to touch?" In her final years, Whitney wrote in her diary that she felt trapped between two worlds, one of virtue and one of desire. She never apologized for loving too much, too freely. Yet loneliness shadowed her to the end. Whitney Houston didn't just leave behind a voice that could shake heaven. She left behind the portrait of a woman who dared to love beyond labels, beyond judgment, beyond fear. Fragile yet fierce, broken yet divine. She remains the angel who burned for love and sang her truth in every note she ever released into the world. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan, the woman who made love through music. Chaka never had to try to be sexy. She was born to captivate. Every glance, every gesture, every note she sang carried a charge of raw life energy. Hollywood tried to box women in. Chaka broke every wall. Her voice wasn't just sound, it was sensation. It breathed, touched, and burned. She once said, "Sex isn't just pleasure. It's what makes me sing." That line infuriated conservatives, but made artists bow their heads in awe. In the studio, she often demanded all lights be turned off except a soft pink glow. "I need to feel like I'm in another body," she'd whisper before recording. An Italian guitarist who toured with her in 1981 recalled a night in Rome. After the show, she invited him to her hotel room, said nothing, just turned on the music and lay down. They didn't talk until morning. "She didn't seduce with words," he said. "She seduced with sound. It felt like making love to a melody." Those nights inspired through the fire. After recording the demo, Chaka reportedly stood silent in a corner, trembling slightly. "This song," she murmured, "is for the one I can't have." Despite her legendary voice, many television producers refused to feature her. Too wild, too honest, too uncontained. But she never tamed herself. "They wanted me to be a lady," she once said. "I was born to be a monster." In her later years, Chaka looked back with no apologies. "I hurt a few people because I lived too honestly," she confessed. "But if I had to do it again, I'd still love, sing, and burn through those naked nights." Chaka Khan was never easy to love, but she made love an art form. And those who've heard her sing, even once, know she reached the most secret, untamed part of the human soul. Millie Jackson. Millie Jackson, the woman who says what others only dare to think. Millie doesn't sing songs. She confesses them. Every lyric drips with sweat, gasps, and the echoes of nights that never made it into polite conversation. Her voice isn't trained, it's lived. It's the sound of a woman who survived love, betrayal, and every kind of heartbreak imaginable. She doesn't need approval. She needs to be heard. In the early 70s, Millie dropped "If You're Not Back in Love" by Monday, and it was like eavesdropping on a lover's fight through a hotel wall. Midway through the track, she scolded a cheating man so viciously it feels personal, like she's on the phone with her ex right then and there. Radio stations try to censor it, but listeners couldn't get enough. "She speaks for us," they said, and she did, moaning, raging, living in every verse. A dancer who toured with Millie once told a story. She invited him to her hotel room to talk, but when the door shut, she locked it, pulled out a microphone, and said, "You've got 5 minutes to make me feel something. If you don't, I'll make a joke in my next song." He laughed, until he didn't. By sunrise, he wasn't the same man who'd walked in. Millie once dated a white DJ, dangerous territory when R&B clubs were still racially divided. They hid it from the world, but when she recorded All the Way Lover, she slipped in a sultry spoken passage, rumored to be whispered straight from their nights together. She never confirmed it, but the look in her eyes every time she performed it told the truth no words could. Hollywood tried to box her out. She wasn't polished enough, glamorous enough, or quiet enough. Millie didn't care. "I didn't come here to be a doll," she once said. "I came here to be a woman." When asked years later if she regretted being so raw, Millie laughed. "I scared a lot of men, but nobody forgot me." Millie Jackson wasn't made for the mainstream. She was the voice of women who'd been told to shut up, smile, and behave. And because of her, they finally dared to moan, to shout, to love, to live out loud. Patti LaBelle. Patti LaBelle, the sweet woman who sizzles like sugar on a hot pan, with hair louder than silence, eyes that burn through the dark, and a voice powerful enough to wake the dead. Patti is a living monument, beautiful, dangerous, and untamed. She carries the warmth of a mother, the spirit of an angel, and the body of a goddess forged in fire. She once confessed, "I love with all my heart, and I've never been ashamed that my body needs love just as much as my voice needs to sing." Even as a teenager, Patti made men forget how to breathe. A neighbor in Philly recalled seeing her at 15, sitting on the porch in a knee-length dress, legs swinging in the afternoon light, humming softly to herself. There was something in her eyes, he said. It wasn't innocence. It was the awareness of her own power. By the 1970s, Patti wasn't just a star. She was a phenomenon. Her shows were so fiery that TV networks refused to air them unedited. After one concert in Atlanta, rumors spread that she didn't return to her hotel alone. A young dancer from her tour was spotted sneaking out at dawn, shirt half open, collar drenched in sweat. Patti never believed in half measures. When she loved, she roared. A former co-star once whispered, "People say she recorded If You Only Knew after a breakup with the only man who ever made her feel submissive." But it ended fast. He couldn't handle a woman who demanded body and soul. Even a backstage crew had stories. At a major show in Paris, Patti reportedly turned the dressing room into her private sanctuary once the lights went down. For 2 hours, no one was allowed in. A security guard outside said quietly, "There wasn't any music playing, just the sound of the bed creaking." Now, in her later years, Patti still radiates the same fire that made her a legend. In a recent interview, she smiled and said, I don't regret a single time I loved. I just regret hurting a few people because I wanted too much on stage and in bed. Patti LaBelle is not a woman you can easily define, but those who have heard her sing or been loved by her know the truth. Some women are born to burn, and they never apologize for burning too brightly. So if you stayed with her story this long, maybe you're not just listening with your ears, but with your heart. Because women like Patti were once called too much, too loud, too hungry. But if they had been men, would anyone have dared to say the same? Etta James. Etta James, the voice that moaned like the first night of desire. Etta James wasn't just a singer. She was a storm in silk, a woman who lived, loved, and sang as if every breath might be her last. When she performed, it wasn't just music, it was confession, combustion, and survival. From the guttural ache of "I'd rather go blind" to the way her eyes dared every man in the audience to look away, Etta embodied danger and devotion all at once. She was the sound of a chained animal testing the limits of its leash. Raised without a father and with a mother lost to addiction, Etta sought love too early, too recklessly. A friend once revealed that at just 16, she vanished with a white musician twice her age, leaving behind only a note that read, "I need to know if my body is lovable." That hunger for love, for validation, would haunt her art forever. Her hit Tell Mama was born. Producer Rick Hall once said, after a night so wild the drummer couldn't play the next show, she sang it, he recalled, like she was remembering every move she made the night before. And I think she did. There were stories, one too vivid to forget, of Etta found in a Chicago hotel bathtub, laughing between two men, a tour manager and a sound engineer, pouring wine, humming softly. The housekeeper who walked in called it the strangest thing I'd ever seen, like watching a leopard rest after the hunt. Critics said she was too raw, too sexual, too wild to be a lady. Etta answered not with apologies, but with moans set to music. "I used to love like crazy," she once confessed. "Sleep with people whose names I don't remember, but I know they remember me. When I sing, I moan for the things no one else dares to say." Etta James is gone, but her echo still trembles in every soul brave enough to love without restraint. She left behind a voice that bled truth, a woman both scarred and radiant. And that's exactly what made her immortal. Laverne Baker. Laverne Baker, the tiger in a ball gown. Laverne Baker didn't have to take off her clothes to be sexy. All she had to do was look at you, smile, and let that first note escape her lips. In the 1950s and 60s, when society expected black women to be soft, modest, and contained, Laverne was pure instinct wrapped in silk. Her peers called her the tiger in a velvet dress, and they meant it. No one dared to challenge her, on stage or between the sheets. As a teenager, she was already dangerous. One boyfriend's parents banned her from their home, saying, "That girl looks too fierce." A few months later, he was sneaking through her bedroom window anyway. Years later, with a mischievous grin, Laverne told the story at a party. "I didn't teach him to sing, I taught him to moan." Where her career exploded with Jim Dandy, Laverne became the kind of sex symbol who didn't need to announce it. A saxophonist who once toured with her confessed that during every chorus, he had to look away to hide his arousal. "She didn't sing in the microphone," he said. "She sang straight into my ear from across the stage." One night in St. Louis, after a fiery show, a hotel clerk claimed he heard wild laughter and strange sounds coming from her room. When he went to check, a man's voice shouted, "I can't take it anymore." The next morning, that same man walked out with a limp and a grin like he'd seen heaven and hell at once. Rumor had it Laverne carried on a secret affair with a married gospel singer, a man of the church who met her in hidden hotel rooms whenever she came to town. No one dared confirm it, but when she once recorded a sorrowful love ballad filled with sighs too real to fake, her producer asked, "Who are you thinking about?" She simply replied, "Someone God won't let me have." Years later, near the end of her life, Laverne confided to a reporter, her voice soft but steady, "I never apologized for being too much. My only regret is that no one ever loved me for more than one night." Laverne Baker was fire-wrapped in elegance. She didn't ask permission to seduce, she commanded it. And anyone who crossed her path left with a burn that never healed. Betty Davis. Betty Davis. The fearless woman who refused to apologize. There was never anyone like her in the music industry. Betty didn't ask permission to seduce, didn't dress to please, and never feared being called wild. From her piercing eyes to that storm of curls and the raw, aching tremor in her voice, Betty Davis made people question whether to admire her or fear her. That unapologetic energy made her a legend, one Hollywood could never quite tame. Born into a strict, conservative family, Betty was labeled too much before she even knew what that meant. At just 14, she was expelled from school for writing lyrics deemed too provocative. I want to love you like a midsummer fever. But instead of shame, she turned that defiance into art. She walked into a smoky nightclub and sang that song to a roaring crowd that couldn't get enough of her fire. She started as a model, but the runway was too small for her spirit. Betty turned to songwriting and set the industry ablaze. With tracks like If I'm in Luck, I Might Get Picked Up, she wrote her own rules. The song's opening line said it all. I wore my pants too tight for someone not to look. Record executives called her music too erotic for radio. Betty just laughed and released it herself. The album sold out within a week. A studio technician once recalled a night in New York when Betty demanded all the lights be turned off. She stepped into the booth, stripped off her top, and whispered, I need to get out of my skin and sing with my instincts. What followed wasn't singing, it was possession. Moans, gasps, growls, pure, untamed emotion. The editor had to leave the room. It was too raw, too real. The technician said later, that was the only time I ever saw a woman make love to music. Her affair with jazz legend Miles Davis shook the industry. Not because she was famous, but because she was too strong for a man used to control. When he hit her, she didn't break. She stood up, looked him in the eye, and walked away. A year later, she released They Say I'm Different, a fierce anthem that defied every expectation of what a woman should be. Hollywood never liked Betty. She wouldn't bow, wouldn't censor, wouldn't conform. But everyone who crossed her path remembered her. One man said, it took me 3 days to recover after I first slept with her. She didn't hug me. She didn't say, I love you. She just looked at me and said, I don't need love. I need fire. In her later years, Betty vanished from the spotlight. She spoke little of love, fame, or desire. But in a final letter to a friend, she confessed, if I hurt anyone, it's because I've been trapped too long in dresses and teachings. Betty Davis wasn't made for every generation. She was made for the brave, the ones who dare to live, to desire, and to scream to the world. My body doesn't need to be hidden. It needs to be heard. Natalie Cole, the Lady of Dark Loves. Natalie Cole, daughter of the legendary Nat King Cole, wasn't just born into music royalty. She embodied it. With her elegant grace, flawless skin, and a voice that could melt pain into poetry, she was the picture of sophistication for a new generation. To the world, she was class incarnate. Silk gowns, perfect lipstick, and a smile that could calm any storm. But behind that regal facade was a woman living life at full speed. I was living a lifetime in a few hours, she once confessed. From her college days, Natalie had a reputation for loving fast and forgetting slow. One former classmate recalled, she once dated 3 men in a single week. She called it her emotional rehearsal schedule. One of those men would later become the producer of her debut album. And he famously said, when Natalie sang, it was like she was making love with every note. But her affairs didn't end there. A fellow musician once revealed that Natalie had a secret relationship with a white drummer, engaged to another singer. They met in hotel rooms booked under false names, their love hidden behind drawn curtains. Natalie even wrote him a song, I've Got Love on My Mind. I didn't love him, she later admitted softly. I loved being with him, and I knew he loved me too. Her sensuality wasn't just in her lyrics, followed her on stage. One dresser revealed, Natalie never wore underwear when performing. She said it made her feel freer. After the spotlight dimmed, she often vanished into the night. sometimes with a fan, sometimes with a chauffeur. One long-time companion remembered, "There were nights I waited 3 hours in the car while she finished her inspiration." The press called her wild, accused her of being promiscuous, reckless, addicted to pleasure and drugs. But Natalie never fought back. In one interview, she simply said, "I've loved some bad men, some worse. But I've never regretted feeling alive." In her final months, weakened but unbroken, Natalie began writing her memories, letters to her son, reflections of a soul that had burned too brightly. In one note, she wrote, "If I could live again, I would still choose to love like that. It was short, but it was real. And true love is never wrong." Natalie Cole will forever remain an icon of elegance. But those who truly knew her, or heard her sing with whiskey in her voice and heartbreak in her tone, understood something deeper. Behind that noble woman was a soul that moaned, not from pain, but from loving too much. Sylvia Robinson, the hidden pleasure queen of hip-hop. To the world, she was the mother of hip-hop, the visionary founder of Sugar Hill Records, and the first producer to make rap a global sound. But long before she built an empire, Sylvia was something far more dangerous. A woman who dared to sing about pleasure when the world expected women to stay silent. In 1973, she released Pillow Talk, a song that made radio stations blush and listeners lean closer. It wasn't just music, it was confession. The moans, the whispers, the breathy ecstasy, none of it was faked. Sylvia recorded every sound herself. When asked where she found such raw emotion, she smiled and said, "I just recorded how love really feels," after one unforgettable night. A sound engineer later revealed that the studio was eerily quiet that day, until Sylvia closed the curtains, dimmed the lights, and told everyone to step outside. "I didn't know if she was singing or making love to her memories," he said. Rumors swirled that Sylvia was entangled with a famous married basketball star. Every time he came to New York, people whispered about late nights in her office, the door locked, the city rain falling, Sylvia wrapped in bronze silk with red lips and wild hair. One assistant remembered her saying softly, "You don't need to talk tonight. Just listen to me breathe." Even at the height of her success, Hollywood never knew what to do with Sylvia Robinson. She was too feminine, too sexual, too unapologetically herself. Some investors pulled out of projects because her image was too provocative. Sylvia didn't flinch. In one candid interview, she declared, "I'm a woman. I built an empire on rhythm, the rhythm of music and the rhythm of my body." Until her final days, she kept a photo by her bedside, Sylvia in the studio, lost in the recording of Pillow Talk. She once said, "I gave hip-hop a voice. But before that, I gave women a voice." Sylvia Robinson wasn't just a producer. She was a revolution in heels. The first woman to turn pleasure into art and make the world listen without apology. Barbara Mason, the poet of desire unmasked. She didn't shout for attention. She breathed it into existence. With every sigh and whispered lyric, Barbara lured listeners into a secret world, one wrapped in longing, tenderness, and unspoken passion. Since Yes, I'm Ready first played through radio speakers, she's been stirring emotions too delicate for words, the kind that aches softly beneath the skin. Barbara wasn't the image of sex symbol. She didn't need to be. It was the way her eyes shimmered with quiet ache, the way her voice trembled like she was singing from her lover's arms, that made audiences lose themselves completely. One producer recalled how, during the recording of I Am Your Woman, He Is Your Wife, she demanded that every light be turned off, candles lit, and perfume fill the air. She wasn't performing, he said. She was feeling, bleeding, wanting, remembering. Behind the music lay a forbidden love. In the late 1970s, Barbara fell for a renowned church organist, a married man with children. Their romance unfolded in motel rooms far from the city lights after midnight shows. One maid remembered hearing soft moans echoing down the hall, not because they were loud, but because they were heartbreakingly real. Barbara never denied the sensual pulse in her music. "I don't sing like a singer," she once confessed. I sing like a lover being loved. Radio stations try to silence her songs, labeling them too erotic. But audiences felt something truer than love in her words. A fearless acknowledgement that women crave, ache, and desire too. When asked if she feared being misunderstood, Barbara smiled and answered, "I'd rather they think I'm moaning than think I'm silent." Barbara Mason didn't just sing. She exposed the pulse beneath womanhood. Every heartbeat, every trembling breath, every half-finished night became her poetry. She didn't write love songs. She rewrote what it means for a woman to be heard. Marlena Shaw, the lady of unspoken desires. Marlena Shaw was the kind of woman who didn't need to say much to be unforgettable. Her hair was always tied neatly, her smile subtle, and her eyes carried entire conversations she never spoke aloud. On stage, she was grace itself. But those lucky enough to sit beside her at a dimly lit bar after a show knew there was something magnetic beneath the calm, an allure that didn't need to flash skin or whisper promises. One look, and you felt like she'd already undressed your soul. She never announced a lover, never flaunted affection. Yet within the soul and jazz circles, everyone knew Marlena was the secret muse of many men. The serious ones, the broken ones, the ones who found in her voice what they couldn't say themselves. She was the kind of woman you didn't flirt with, one musician once said, but you thought about her every time she sang. One night at the Blue Note, after performing Feel Like Making Love, Marlena walked off stage to a young drummer and whispered, "You're playing like you're asking for a hug." The two vanished into the night, and when she returned, her encore was longer, softer, and achingly sensual. A tour assistant from 1992 remembered how Marlena would always sit alone in her dressing room after a show. No makeup, no company. When she finally emerged, she would fix her lipstick, her eyes heavy with the kind of glow that only dreams and secrets could leave behind. People often mistook her quietness for coldness. But Marlena once said, "It's not that I don't love. I just don't need to prove it." Yet after her passing, her diary revealed a single line that said it all. "I once loved someone so deeply that if he merely touched the back of my hand, I could sing a whole song without music." Marlena Shaw was never about scandal. She didn't perform sensuality, she embodied it. Her music didn't shout. It lingered, soaked through your chest, and made you remember the lovers you lost or never dared to keep. She sang of nights too tender to confess, of tears swallowed in silence, and of love that lived only in memory. So tonight, as you listen to her story, don't just use your ears. Listen with your heart, with your own memories of love. Because this isn't just about music, it's about every emotion we've ever hidden behind a smile. If you believe that every soul deserves to love freely in their own way, then like, comment, and share this message, so Marlena's quiet fire can keep burning in someone else's heart. Thank you for staying until the end.